Good afternoon, everyone from India, and good morning to Yogi and Paul. Thank you so much for presenting for us on this very relevant topic today. In fact, I'm actually currently just working on a project which I need to set up on Azure Pass. And this topic is especially important to me right now. I'm sure a lot of people are actually working on similar situations and would appreciate all the knowledge that you can share with us. So thank you for again taking the time for presenting for us today. Over to you.
Okay, welcome everybody. Very happy to be able to present for you. Annie, thank you for introducing us. It's actually quite funny that you're telling that you're setting up an Azure PaaS environment currently. I don't know whether you are setting up Azure Search also, but we have some opinions and some experiences in this, so really nice to share this together. I will start my talk now. Our talk is about sharing experiences. So what we want to do is just tell you about what we experienced, and we hope, we learned a lot from our experience, and we hope to share that with you so you learn as well, and maybe some comments, questions will also help us, so we also can learn from you. So feel free to ask questions. Of course, I don't know with how many people we are, and it's an online connection, but we are definitely willing to answer questions. And of course, in the end, after the meeting, we also give you the chance to answer questions. So, sorry, it was some, I'm working on my colleague's laptop. That was a bit surprising, but no problem. So first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the case about experience. So first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the case we had. After that, we are going to talk a bit about what search solution options there are if you have a Sitecore application. We're going to talk about lessons learned, the story of setting up Solr Cloud. Yogi is going to do some demo on search tags. You will later learn why. I think it's something we experience later that is quite helpful. And in the end, we are going to do some conclusion, and we give you the answer, the possibility to answer questions. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the case and the storyline for today. What we did was for a company, we had to build an intranet. And an intranet, that means that everybody is going to search for information. Of course, what do you do on the internet? You're going to search information about your employer. Employer gives you information that the employee needs. It's all about searching, and it's about finding the right thing right away. So search is very important. It's also, in our case, it was a multinational, and it was an application that covers the world. So that means connection needs to be good. It needs to be robust. It needs to be reliable. That's an important thing. Also, it was, of course, because it covers the world, it's also multilingual environment. So it's potentially 20 plus languages that need to be supported. So this has consequences for Sitecore, but of course also for search. Then very important to say that what we did was an SXA implementation. And later we talk about SXA a little bit more, but it changes Sitecore, and it also changes how you deal with such. So it is an important addition to that. In the end, we will talk a lot about Solr Cloud, because that was eventually that was the choice that we took, the system that we used, where the presentation called to adventure or not. So we didn't choose for Solr Cloud right away, but we will learn that during the presentation. I want to say, well, this is about the internet application. But of course, there are many more enterprise applications where you can think of that search is important. For example, you could have a car company or whatever. This is about service. So internet is the example, but of course it's feasible for lots of different projects, applications. It's more about the enterprise application. That's the storyline where we talk about today. Now, well, you see later why, but you see Yogi is going to do a few things, and well, I'll tell you later why he does it, but he's going to do it right now. So Yogi, take it away.
Yes, so Hello, everyone. So good afternoon and good morning again. As Paul has explained, given a bit of background about the case, etc. So I want to show you a bit more demo about the Solar Cloud and how we have done that. So I'm going to switch between the presentation to a menu of search stacks, and we'll connect the dot towards the end and why, explain you why about it. So let us know when you can see my browser. So I'm going to take a uh, turn now from the presentation to a browser. Let me know when you can see it. Okay, so I'm just popping up the screen. Just bear with me a moment. Let me know when you guys see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your browser now.
Okay, so this is going to be a bit of switch. So whereas Paul explains about the context and then knowledge of the solution, and I would deal with a bit of implementation and how it would be helpful with search stack as one of the options. Um, in order to be a bit interactive, I want your help. I'm going to create a deployment. So we'll connect back why we are doing this for you. I want you to help me with a name. So can one of you give me a name for a deployment? I'm going to deploy a server here, Solar Cloud, but I need a suggestion on the name. So any suggestions from you? Any or anyone from the team? Or shall I call it?
SUG.
Hey, SUGBLR. We have our name. Uh, any choice of providers? Amazon, Microsoft. Okay, yeah, pick one. So I'll pick for now, and for region, I want to go towards Mumbai, which is very closer to us, and I want to, create a cluster. So with a couple of nodes for me, and so would you advise me taking the latest version, or I would go with 7.7.2 for now. So creating a deployment. Let's wait for the magic to happen in the background, and we are switching back the context from browser to presentation. So back to Paul now. Bear with us. Paul, over to you, please. Sure.
Okay, so that was nice, Yogi. Maybe all of you don't understand exactly what he is doing. Well, you can guess, of course, a little bit. Presentation, or actually the thing that Yogi was presenting, is something that makes me really happy, but it also makes me a little bit crying. I will explain later why. But you will see. I will proceed with the presentation now. I just will talk a little bit about the options available that you have when you set up a Sitecore environment in regards to search and indexing. So, what is it? Can I do it? Oh, okay. So, you didn't see the presentation yet, but you can see it now. Um, I'm going to talk a bit about the options you have when you have Sitecore. Well, first option is what you can use is Sitecore with Solr single instance. You could use with Azure Search. You could use it with Solr Master Slave, and you could use it with Solr Cloud. I'm going to talk about all the four subjects a bit. I'm going to discuss those four items by structure. I'm going to talk about ease of setup, maintainability, functionality, and I'm going to give a recommendation about this, just to put some structure in our presentation. So first I'm going to talk about Solr single instance. Well, ease of setup, that's of course it's very easy to set up. You just download it somewhere from the internet. You install it on your file system. Of course, first you have to install Java. That's maybe a small complication, but not really big. And before you know it, you have it up and running. Then you do a few things to Sitecore, like getting your fields, and you add a connection string, and there you are. You're up and running. However, of course, maintainability. You could say that it is easy because it's only one single machine that you need to maintain. But of course, if you talk about an enterprise application, it must be clear that this is not feasible because you have no load balancing. You have lots of things are not there. Also, functionalities where I talk later about in regards to Solr Cloud. That's all not there. So actually, don't want to spend too much time on this anymore because for an enterprise application, Solr single instance is not feasible. It's only there for dev, test, demo purpose. That's all. So let's talk a bit about Sitecore with Azure Search. Annie, you were saying you were setting up an environment with Sitecore PaaS environment with Search. What did you select as a Search environment?
Right, so I think it comes with Azure Search by default, right? So right now we do have Azure Search enabled, but we're looking into moving to switching to Solr because in the IIS deployment we had Solr in use and a lot of Solr specific functionality as well. So we're looking for Solr. So it's actually very good timing, and I'm really paying attention to you right now.
Yes. So that is good to hear. We are going to. I'm going to talk a little bit about the subject, and also for us, it was a thing we had to choose for which environment we had to use. And well, I give it away a little bit. We first started with Azure Search. Later, we had to switch to Solr Cloud. So I will just continue with the structure. Well, ease of setup, of course, you can confirm that, and it's really quite easy because Azure Search is a SaaS solution. Software as a service, and also it is cloud native. It is Azure cloud native. So yeah, you set it up in a brief, it's really easy to do. And then you connect to Sitecore and it works. Maintainability, of course, yeah, that's good as well because it's a SaaS solution and it is cloud native. Again, the same reasons. However, then we come to functionality. And we have to split that up in two parts, actually. You have the functionality in regards to search. I really like search results, but you also have to talk about functionality in the sense of how it is built up, how you use it in your software, how you search it, how you program it, and how you get things done. Well, we can say that one of the problems of Azure Search is that it only supports 32-bit fields. We had a lot of problems with that. Of course, we have workarounds. You can create computable fields and all those kind of things. But if you have a big application, you have to do a lot. That's not really a good thing to do. Because, for example, if you have in an internet, you also need to support PDF files, and there are some very often they are quite lengthy, and your employees also want to search in the content of these files, so it needs to be indexed. So, and then you run very often in. 32-bit is not enough. Secondly, you have the restriction of that you per index you can only nowadays you can create 2,000 fields per index. When we were starting with this project, you could even only use 1,000 fields, and there are a lot. This can restrict you a lot, especially if you use SXA, because you cannot just create indexes like that because all those default components they use indexes. It's a long story, but you really can only create a few indexes, and if you have 20 languages, many websites, because of course for an internet is, in this case at least, in this multinational internet, many micro websites, I can tell you 1,000 fields is really not enough. And then again, also where we ran into is that there were a lot of bugs. Sometimes you're programming things, you expect things to happen, but they don't, and then you have to contact either Sitecore or either Microsoft. It was actually quite a problem. So what I can say about, so in regards to recommendation, I think if you have an Azure application where search is not that important, you only have a few websites and only not that much content, I think Azure Search can work really well. But if you have an enterprise application that is for an enterprise company, and it relies very much on search, and it needs to be really robust, well, you need to know that Azure Search only exists since 2015. And for example, Solr exists already since 2004. It's just much more mature. And on the moment, I believe Azure Search is, at least that's my opinion, Azure Search is not mature enough yet. Of course, one day it will get to this point, and then maybe it's a better solution, but now I believe it is not. Let's talk a little bit about Solr master-slave environment. Well, ease of setup. That's not so easy, because you can set up multiple Solr environments. So with this, you do have a way of load balancing, but you have to script everything yourself. You have to really take care that it works as you want it to work. And the more functionality you want to add, the more you need to script. So that's quite difficult. Then if you look at maintainability, it's also difficult. At least it depends on what you want. If you just need a simple environment, of course, it's very much doable. Also must say that in the past, this was the only option, because Solr Cloud is only supported since Sitecore 9.1 update 2. So before we had to use Solr master slave in many cases, and it worked. However, now Solr Cloud is there. We recommend to use Solr Cloud. It is just much more elaborated, much more. You got much more functionality for that. So Solr Cloud, ease of setup. Well, in the beginning, it's not so easy, because there's so much there. It's such a complicated. There is so much features, so much possibilities. So it's not easy to set up. Maybe it's easy to set up, but you need to know, you need to make choices between all those possibilities you have. Later I'll talk a little bit more about this, because this is the thing we chose for, so we have some more attention for this. In regards to functionality, I can say it's really good. It has in search functionality, it has powerful full text search, it has very elaborated faceted search, it has near real-time indexing, and for an application, an enterprise application that covers the world, it has geospatial indexing. There are lots of opportunities. Sitecore is, Solr Cloud is really elaborated. It is also, of course, that Solr Cloud is not only for Sitecore, not only for Microsoft, but for all platforms. It exists already a long time. So, of course, there's a lot of functionality. So I want to take a little bit back to Azure Search. And that's also a big difference with Azure Search. There is much more functionality. So let's talk a little bit more about Solr Cloud. And let's talk a little bit about our experience. I really like to share that with you guys, because it was not easy. So I want to talk about the lessons learned and the story of setting up Solr Cloud. So what happened to us was that we started first with Azure Search. Me as an architect, I also came a little bit later on the project. So I came there when we, right at the moment when we decided, well, Azure Search is not the choice. So then we came for, so we need to move to Solr Cloud. And of course, an architect has a lot of knowledge, but we also have to be honest, we don't know everything. And the power of an architect is finding out things and learn and make the right choices. So the problems we faced was it had to be designed. And of course, I can think of a Solr Cloud environment, and I can look it up on the internet, but it still needs to be designed. And you need for this company that has high demands, you need to make the right choice, because in the end, what you want to do is really help the customer. That's why we work for, right? So it had to be designed. We had to make choices. So questions we had, for example, how many Solr nodes do we need to use? Is it 2? I think not. You need to choose for an uneven number. If you know about load balancing, you know you need to always do that, 3, 5, or whatever. But there always needs to be an uneven number. But how many should we take? Then the scalabilities of the VMs. How should we scale them? Of course, we get it to work, but is it good enough for the company we work for the application we create? How much memory do we use, for example? We also had to think about monitoring. So what kind of tools would we use? In the end, we started. It went well, and we used Azure Azure monitoring tools most of all, and that was actually quite nice. So you also need to think about logging. So you really need to configure all of this. So in the end, Azure Application Insights, I suppose most of you know about this. Kudo, those tools, you could use it for logging and it worked well. But, you also need to have it right in place if the problems exist, and you need to be ready for a live situation. A thing where we had to think about, and Annie, this is really an interesting thing for you, indexing. If you need to index media, app services do not support iFilters. So we had to find a way, because of course on the internet, the most important part is documents, files, all those kind of things. That's what colleagues need to find. So we need to find the solution for that. So in the end, the OCR functionality, we had to build that ourselves, and we chose to use tkaon.net. So we used that to prepare the files for indexing, so we could index it with Solr Cloud. Yeah, well, some experience I want to share with you is if you're going to set up Solr Cloud and then you're going to configure Sitecore, you will run into the fact that Solr Cloud is also quite new to Sitecore, and sometimes documentation is really not up to date and not sufficient. So with XConnect we had actually, so you have to upload your schemas to Solr. And so in the documentation of Sitecore, there was that we had to change the ID, the name of the field ID. We had to change it to something else for Sitecore. So we did that. So we thought we were smart, and we did the same for XConnect, that you also have to connect to Solr Cloud. And we changed the ID field there as well, because we thought, well, it's Sitecore, so you need to change it. But that was wrong. XConnect needed to be configured in the default Solr array, and it was nowhere documented back then. So that took us quite some time. Then, yeah, we ran into bugs with Sitecore because, again, I really don't blame Sitecore. They helped us really a lot, and they helped us fast. But Sitecore with SXA and Solr Cloud, that was quite new. So we had, for example, the level underscore field bug, and that was that Solr creates in an automated way. It creates fields for indexes. And so it started creating fields based on name convention that Sitecore used as well. And yeah, well, in the end, Sitecore needed to add a patch for that before we had it solved. And it took us a lot of time to find it out. Once you know it, of course, that's easy. But first you have to find it out. Then we had a really interesting bug in Sitecore, and that was the SXA item crawler DLL function. And this actually, in this DLL, there was a function that was there for checking whether a file should be indexed or not. So it was a function where virtually every file passes by, and then there happened an exception in this function, but there was no exception handling. And this is a multi-threaded functionality. Of course, it needs to perform. It's complex, so it's multi-threaded. So what happened is that there was no sufficient exception handling, and code just bubbled up to nobody knows where, and we got really unexpected search results in the beginning, and we didn't know where it came from. And so it took us quite a while to find out that this was the reason. So we really had to decompile this DLL, and here you can see how it is different now. Sitecore with SXA is different because normally you have a Sitecore crawler, but when you install SXA on top of Sitecore, some things will change. So this SXA item crawler is replacing the default Sitecore crawler, and we got a lot of problems with this. So I'm just highlighting a few things here to show you what the experience was and how much time it actually took to get this to work, and how much trouble it cost us. I want to mention that I'm writing blogs about this. I already wrote 2 blogs. You can find it on www.pauldohman.com. You will find 4 series of blogs about this subject, and there you can see later. I will publish the last 2. Will publish the end of this week, or next week, and there you'll find the technical details with solutions you can take if you are configuring this. It's too much to tell this all during this presentation. But yeah, I just highlighted a few issues we had with setting this up, and that is what I want to emphasize is that it took us a lot of time, and that we had a lot of learning. And check my website, and you can see more, and it can also help you in setting up your own. So just we have to take note a little bit about time, but just simple to summarize things. For setting up, we had several subjects we had to cover, where we had to think about when we set up Solr Cloud, this new thing for Sitecore, and we had to think about the architectural thing, architectural items, like how many Solr nodes, and we also had to think about DevOps items, monitoring, disaster recovery, logging. I talked about this before. And we also have to think about Sitecore, like insufficient documentation, indexing, which was different because it was an Azure PaaS environment and other bugs we experienced. So all these things we needed to think about. And well, later on, I'll give away a little bit the clue of this presentation, but you will see that you can at least give away some of your worries to another environment, so you can fix your thoughts on the real problems. But okay, let's not talk too much about it yet. Now Joey will tell about his secret, and we'll do some demo on the application where we started. So again, Joey, take it away. By the way, do you like the picture of Joey? Okay, we will not talk about that.
Okay, so we're just playing pirates here. So I'm his co-pirate in the ship.
It's about the adventure, right?
Adventure. So that's the emphasis of it. So let me take that back again, Paul. Thank you for it. Thank you for the introduction. So as Paul has been emphasizing more, we have passed through the phases of making architectural decisions, DevOps decisions, site code decisions, etc. While on our intention to create our own Solr cloud framework using Solr master slave and using via Azure environment. So far the experience was a bit exhaustive, and we were also emphasizing the fact that it would have been better if all of the decisions could come as a provision or provided to us already as a provider. So where we saw, and when we connected, when we started checking the tools, of which one of the best options we got, one of the better options we have got into was search tags, and I'm going to give about it. So that's the clue. We started at the presentation, and I'll share the presentation, and I'll share the screen. The pain that we have gone through was, and the things that you see on the screen, architectural, DevOps, etc. It took us nearly 15 to 20 days, and by then the customer is always waiting for the delivery, and it was all running. Since we have tight deadlines to meet, so there is a lot of running. And we'll see what difference search tags could bring onto the table for an architects like us and the developers like us in terms of providing more value to it. So OT, just bear with me. I'm switching screen from presentation in a minute and take over you to the search tag screen. Okay, popping up. Cool. So, so previously we have selected. So here is the deployment that we did just a while ago before our presentation. So it takes time. So all the 15 days effort, what Paul has been talking about, or the journey that we shared with you earlier, search tags was able to do it in. Is still doing, but it's less than like 15 to 20 or the 30 minutes of our presentation so far. And basically what what search tags could bring us onto the table is primarily the ease of setting up, taking architectural decisions, as well as the DevOps decisions like monitoring, making your billing, etc., and even looking at the utilities of as in the Covio, the earlier search provider of Sitecore, which went hand in hand for enterprise applications, Covio as well. But Solr here stands apart, and since the search tags is still in development, I want to show a bit more utilities about search tags, what it could offer. So as soon as the deployment is done, we could look at the utilities as well. The deployment name, you could delete, restore, backups. So if it's in a true Solr single node or instance on its own, it'll always be very difficult to deal with Solr. But instead, with the Solr search tags and then Solr Cloud, now both Sitecore and then search tags are going hand in hand. They're going to release a plugin as well that was announced in Sitecore Australia, SUG. So we're going to see much more closer integration between search tags. And what it makes difficult was, at what point search tags made our life a bit more difficult is, one, with the setup, the decisions that we have gone through in the journey that's been shared by Paul for 15 days or 15, 20 days where we were on the run. We were able to do that in one go, on a one click, by just selecting the region or the provider of our choice.
In our previous presentation, it took 20 minutes. It takes a little bit longer now, but it will be finished any moment. So a few weeks against 30 minutes, that's really a big win.
Yes, that's a big win. So, but you still have to deal with the Sitecore, connecting search tags with Sitecore. But that's a quite simple one. It just the same configuration change that you do, and it's all quite easy. So basically, the time that we gave between 15 days to minutes itself is a big advantage. The more time that you get borrowed at a critical time in a delivery, and also on the decisions that you make along with developing your software. So you focus more on software, then your focus shifts from solution to software.
Can you tell us a bit about the DevOps options from search tags? Can you show that? I know it's currently. So the strange thing is that it is not ready yet. Okay, so it takes, instead of 30 minutes this time, it takes 40 minutes. But can you show us somehow a little bit the options that are there? Is it there?
Yes, it's perfect. So it's sorry. So it's ready. So I'm going to explore you a bit more about the DevOps and architecture options that it gives. So as you could see on the screen itself, the search tags provides us a bit more emphasis, and then it also gives us insights about building, how we could sit and then optimize the cost, which is quite evident for our customers. Okay, so far we have been seeing search tags, how search tags is different from our regular standalone installation. So for any of us as a developers, and then for architects to integrate search tags with Sitecore or Solr in an instance, you need an endpoint. So search tags helps you in providing the endpoints, and here is the endpoint. The endpoint can be seen on clicking the Cloud Manager menu, and then on the servers it gives you the list of servers, and here is what you could see on the endpoint. And you go to the endpoint, it's no different from what you see on your local machine or what you see on your regular instance. So it is as quite simple and as powerful as you. So you don't need to worry about the load balancing, the scripting, the zookeeper scripting, etc. in Solr way. And you could turn on, or you can see how many. So these are the instances that are running between the Solr nodes, etc. So you can maintain everything at one go. So you want to stop a Solr, you can stop from here, and everything is configurable in the menu itself, which is much more easier for DevOps. Instead of the learning curve, you would eliminate the learning curve here, and you would eliminate the time to market for yourself in providing solutions. So you focus more on software where the solution is already ready. And likewise, search tags also helps you in terms of backing up. So disaster recovery is another thing that you got to look at in ops scenario. So you could time your schedules. You could do add a scheduled backup, one-time backup, and you could restore from the backups. Likewise, all your schedules can be shown from the schedules, and then backups can be found here. Likewise, the next important thing for any traceability is another important thing as an architect or as a developer that you need to make decisions. So Solar Cloud helps you. Search tags here in this scenario helps you with the logs. So you could either look for the console logs, and these are the different logs, and you could select between which node and the load balance. ELB stands for elastic load balancer and the load balancer and their IP address. You would switch between them, and then on clicking the log, you could see. So likewise, the other most important thing is about security. How would you safeguard the endpoint? How would you safeguard only the Solar is accessed via a list of servers in production that you want to do? So you could do it either by traditional IP filtering or by auth. So it gives you both the options to do it, and you could look at the Solar, etc., and then a description. So likewise, you could add multiple, delete multiple. So, and these are the options that you see are regular options that would help you more with the DevOps. But looking at the core, what search tags could offer bit is here, alerting. So once you have the application that is set up in Cloud Manager, the focus goes on monitoring. If you set up the application right, then you need to focus on monitoring so that it is continuously available at an enterprise level. You could create alerts based on different multiple metrics. So it could be either by CPU usage, Java thread count, disk space, etc. This helps you in terms of making decisions around the uh, capacity management of your server, because the state of the content won't be still the same at the start of your solution. While the solution grows, your enterprise, so these alerts provide helps you in terms of infrastructure resilience and react to the incidents as well. So the alerts helps you. So for example, I set up an alert. I want to set up an alert when the CPU usage of Solar is greater than 80%. So I could also select around the collections that I want and max alerts, and with the repeating, the frequency of it, and whom I need to send. It could be a general email which would help the ops. So this is more at a CPU. Likewise, it gives you more and more options where you could put metrics around throughput, latency, caching, alerting. You could also point it to the health of the status. Likewise, you do. So these are the important options or important thoughts. So when you have a solution that is ready, um, Surstax provides you various options and provides you information with the infrastructure resilience, so that the solution or the enterprise at scale will always have the infrastructure that you have is completely resilient to the changes for now as well as for future. So out of all the pain that we have gone through between 3.5 weeks of journey while initial setup, so search tags has done for us in 30 minutes. And Paul, and then when we were evaluating one of the options, so we looked at this as one of a major impulsive option as well. In future, not only this comes, the search tags comes with the basic version. When you have a subscription, these are the options that you get. But search tags also offers you another analytics, which we use it for other customers too, is about search analytics. So it would give you analytics around the keyword that's been searched, the number of times it is searched, and if you have any, and from those you could also create dashboards about around the most keyed search word, and come up with metrics around it. So you could tune in your search. It gives you insights as well, but this comes with a cost in the subscription, and it has to be subscribed. So apart from it, as I discussed earlier, the other thing is disaster recovery, backing up, and you could also have a central activity log. Basically, as you could see, it gives you the user and the role to it. So likewise, when you have multiple users, you could see log it centrally at one go, and then the IP address that's been accessed. Likewise, it also gives you other monitoring tools, the other common application monitoring tools like PagerDuty, New Relic as well as a third-party integrations in future. So likewise, you could manage your users at one go. You could transfer your ownership of the account, add users, multiple users, billing payments, and many other user preference and many other AWS settings. So everything could be done at one go, and we could integrate with via search stacks. So this is one of the potential options, a stronger options at enterprise level, which you could use and explore search stacks, not going through. So you should focus only on solution, not on the setup, which we have gone through as well. So that's one of the things that I want to show. Or back to presentation now.
So it says already, thank you for your attention. However, I want to first I want to conclude actually what we showed you. What isn't first I showed you that Solr Cloud is really the best solution to go with an enterprise application. However, for us, it took us a lot of time to set it up. And also a lot of responsibility to set it up, because you right away need to have the knowledge. You have to how exactly you do it. And so we also showed you search stacks. I want to say as an option, which you could choose to make things more easy for you. So at least then you have the part of setting up Solr will be easy, because you do just by a simple user interface. And after that, you have also the things. I'm not going to repeat them all again, but monitoring, backups, all these things you have to set up manually in your cloud environment. If you set it up yourself on virtual machines, you have it there in search stacks, so it can really help. I really want to emphasize we have no commercial connection with search stacks at all. We are telling you this because we ran into these problems and it took us so much time. So it could be something that could help you. Maybe there are also other tools around, I don't know, but we saw search stacks at least as a feasible solution, but that's a choice you have to make yourself. But what most of all, this presentation was not about search stacks, it was about sharing our experience. And so therefore, again, I told you, I wrote a few blogs. I already wrote 2 of them, and I will go and add, next week I'm going to add 2 or more. So in order to try to help you in the thinking about how to set up your enterprise search environment. And of course, there's the possibility to comment there, and also want to learn from you guys, because we don't have the holy grail. So we really want to learn. This was our presentation. My question is, on the moment, is there anybody in the room, in the virtual room, that has questions that we need to answer? Does anybody have any questions?
I have one question with regard to pricing as opposed to Azure Search. Was there anything you'd like to share with regard to that? I mean, is it like more expensive? Sure.
I've done this presentation. This is now the 3rd time I do this presentation, and each presentation, the first question was this. So actually, should take a look into. Actually, search tags, of course, for example, it's not for free, and it is expensive. Solr Cloud on itself, of course, is not expensive. Although you have to think about Java nowadays, there is this license thing, and that you have to pay for Java now as well. For Azure Search, the simple variant of Azure Search is cheap, but if you want Azure Search for an enterprise environment, price is more or less the same as search tags. So actually, it is all of the options is expensive and more or less the same.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Paul has said, so as you say, in the cloud environment, we look at capex and opex cost. So if with Azure Search, the capex cost at initially could be less, but operational cost would be more over a period of time. Let's take in a long term of 2 or 3 years of time if you want the enterprise search.
To be honest, I believe even earlier, prices will be more or less the same.
Yeah.
Actually, you can summarize it with they are all expensive.
Yeah, they're all expensive.
Also, search tags is really not cheap. So if you just take a simple subscription, that costs not a lot, but I believe that for if you want to set up one enterprise application, you will pay around 1,000 to 1,500 euros a month for a production environment. But if you really use Azure Search as you need it to use, then you will be more or less the same price as I've let somebody calculate that. I don't have exact numbers, but it's more or less the same.
But it's more or less the same.
Are there any more questions? Does this answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
But on a longer term, the cost of Azure Search, say like in another 8 months to 1 year, it gets normalized to search tax what it offers.
Okay, are there any more questions?
If you have a team working on like development for local development, then how do you suggest we kind of coordinate that? Because yeah, so databases and all that, do we have it on local or do we have a separate data set for development on the cloud, and how do we deal with indexing in that case?
Yeah, sure. Well, basically, if you look at in our old days of Sitecore development, we used to have one shared database where all the developers. Then came the luxury of using a local database, TDS, etc. Likewise, in search tags also you can come with and also the other strategy that we go generally is around development servers or development machines go at a common index. So we could use, since this exposes an endpoint, search tags exposes an endpoint, you could go with a basic server implementation for integration or a DTAP and
just simple
DTA environments, and then
developer machines you can just use simply one Solr instance, which we showed as the first option today. So you can for that it's enough. You can search queries, do the same. Only if you get really into depth, then you might run into problems, and then you might have to do something with your test environment or whatever. But I think before you get to that point, that will take a while. Simple answer is developers can use a single Solr instance, and for your production environment and maybe for your UAT environment, you use the Solr Cloud solution. Does that answer your question?
So ideally, we have like a development environment with a single set of databases and the search engine as well, which everyone is pointing to from the dev team.
Yes,
it's advisable to use a single. It depends, of course. I don't know how big. Normally, I would say because of costs and because of maintenance, I would say use a single Solr instance for that. Only use it for production and for user UAT environment, maybe where you really want to test your application. For other environment, just use a single instance.
Is there anything significant that you've seen, differences in the capabilities between using a local instance of Solr versus using search tags? If you're using the same version,
search tags on itself, of course, it is only an API on top of it, and search tags is good in creating scripts, but you really have exactly the same environment. You have a really not a standalone, but you have your cloud environment, which is really yours. So it's the same actually as if you created in your own environment. Only the difference is, of course, it goes over the internet. So that could be a bottleneck. But if you have your connection right, that wouldn't be too much of a problem. And you want to add something?
Yeah, and secondly, search tags helps you in terms of the availability, etc. So the concerns are, contracts on availability, etc., will be taken, and the Java license, etc., will be handled by the search tags. And coming from the computing power perspective, Annie, search tags and then in your local machine is no different. It's the same, but it is the scale of solution search tags could bring with auto scalability and then monitoring the OPEX side of the things, where you really see much difference on a longer term with search tags.
So it's just a bit hard because it almost looks like we are advertising search tags, but it's really convenient. That's not our goal. We just talk about the subject, but it's really convenient that with search tags they have taken care also about scaling. And if you do so in my blogs you can read that we have taken care about scaling as well. So you can do it in the end. You can do it yourself. It's only more safe, more easy to do via search tags. But that's maybe a little bit a different subject. The answer to the question is you can really mix using search tags, and for your development environments, you could of course use search tags, but then that has a price. You could also set up your own server. It depends totally on your project, your possibilities you have. But all options are there. Technically, there are no restrictions. It's more of the project, how you want to do it, that makes the difference, and how you choose it.
Right. So technically, since I mean, there is no difference with regard to the capability in and the actual underlying search functionality. So if we were to for the sake of cost saving, have the development team continue working on local instances of Solr and their database, and then switch only in, we should not ideally see any issue, right?
No,
Yeah,
exactly what we're
yes.
saying.
All right. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Any more questions around the table?
We could sing a song for you, but
that song. So any more questions?
So let's skip the song part. I would say then, yeah, it was really a pleasure to do this presentation for you. For me, it was the first time that I do a webinar to India, so it was quite exciting to start with, but in the end, it was really a relaxed atmosphere. I liked it. Thank you very much. And I hope you, yeah, we will send some tweets about the blogs so you can read more, and there will be more added next week. So, but thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks again. We'll be sharing the recording on our channel as well. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks everyone for attending. Great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.